So in this tutorial, we're going to work on this Binoculars in 3ds Max and Substance Painter, and we're going to start off, as you can see here, with a cylinder, and we're going to try to work with the reference image we have here on a simple plane. And we're gonna try to follow the reference image that you can see here. You're gonna find these reference images on my Patreon page. And as you can see here, we are trying to increase the number of sides probably to something more than 20, like 24 or 26. And then we delete the polygons that are not necessarily needed. After that, we're gonna actually extrude the edges. Keep holding shift in order to do this, and move in order to see the extrusion taking place. Also, we're going to use the move tool and the scale tool in order to adjust the position of these vertices and edges and polygons. So actually the reference image is not completely accurate because it was not really shot from completely vertical view or point of view, so we have to actually guess and improvise a little bit as we move forward. So I duplicated this plane, just copy it, keep holding shift to copy it and put it over there, and I've added another reference image in order to guide myself here in order for the creation process and estimate how big some of these elements are, because this is necessary in order to get some of these proportions right. Alright, so I'm going to detach this this piece here quickly because we're going to need it in order to expand and create the other pieces. I just isolated and this piece here, and I'm actually applying the X-ray mode, which is really important in order to activate the see-through mode that you can see here. Of course, the some of the parts we are trying to create here are not fully visible on the reference image. So, as I said before, we're gonna improvise a little bit and actually guess where these where some of the shape is going, even if we can't really see it because it is covered by some of the other pieces. So, we're gonna modify the position of some of these vertices and add two edges, as you can see here, because we are kind of building the mesh, kind of guesstimating the position of these edges and vertices, as I said before. And it doesn't have, actually, you don't have to be perfectly accurate because there's no reason to do that. It is just, and these reference images here are just helping us to get and kind of guide us to do our job a little bit more accurately if we do it without using these reference images in the first place. Alright, so of course, as we move forward, it's gonna become easier, but when you start, you have to really kind of take a good look at your reference images before you start, because this is important in order to, and I find that generally speaking, understanding the model you're gonna work on is extremely important, because it's gonna actually save you some time when you start modeling, because I prefer, when you start modeling, I prefer to have kind of a photographic memory of the model in my head. I try to visualize it in my head before I start, because this will actually be a good thing to avoid some mistakes and problems down the road. And also, if you don't really understand all the pieces that are kind of together that create your model, then you're gonna be actually pausing kind of so many times, and you're gonna waste so much time trying to understand your model in the process of the modeling, which is gonna actually hinder you a little bit. As you can see here, we applied now the shell modifier, which is really important in order to give thickness to this piece here, and also we're gonna try to give the thickness to this piece here in the front, and as you can see here, we'll try to get something close to what we can see on the image in front of you. And yeah, it does not have to be perfectly accurate. As I said before, just keep holding shift, scale using the scaling tool, and scale in as well in order to do whatever we are doing here. Alright, keep holding shift, of course, all the time, and create the shapes or the geometry I'm creating here, and right click, then collapse in order to bring that loop to a single vert in the center. Alright, so I just moved these polygons a little bit forward because that was needed according to what I can see on the reference image. Alright, so let's duplicate this, and we're gonna take this to the back. So convert to editable poly and collapse everything. And I just used the alignment tool S from the keyboard to activate the alignment tool. And yeah, this is necessary actually to build the body of this binoculars. And we're going to actually try to follow the reference image, as I said, but of course, since the reference is not super precise, we're not gonna follow it exactly as it is. So right now I'm trying to figure out really how this the next step, what is the next step in order to do or the move we're gonna take next, we're gonna do next. Alright, so let's just make this smaller, scale it down a little bit, and alright, so this is really important. I don't want to make mistakes here, or actually sometimes when you think about what you're gonna do, it's gonna save you a little bit of time. So probably here we're gonna inset these polygons that I selected here, or delete them as you can see here, and yeah, move these edges a little bit and duplicate them. Keep holding shift all the time, and when you see that end, you're gonna stop. Alright, try to match it a little bit, as you can see. And yeah, according to the reference image you have and your estimation of how the geometry is taking place, you're gonna position and scale that end accordingly. Actually, I forgot to pause the video there. I was doing something else, and here we'll try to actually, we just removed some of the polygons that we don't really need, and just duplicated this piece here. And obviously this cannot stay as big as it is right now, so we're gonna do one thing. We're gonna actually center the pivot to the center of the piece, and we're gonna change its size, obviously, because it is too big. Definitely here we cannot follow the reference image because it's not aligned with our geometry, so we're gonna guesstimate where this is gonna be. Alright, so yeah, it seems like we're gonna change how thick this piece is. Also here we're gonna try to create the eyepiece using the cylinder. Create a cylinder with 18 or 20 sides, then rotate it 90 degrees, of course. All right, try to position it somewhere, and don't really worry about how this piece is gonna fall on top of that surface right now, because definitely we're gonna try to figure that out later. So right now, convert this to editable poly, and delete these polygons that we don't really need, and we will work on this piece, this eyepiece, from the top viewport T from the keyboard. I hope you understand the basics, because this is not really for extreme beginners here, because I usually don't talk about the very basic stuff. I mean, like how to switch viewports and how to keep holding control in order keep holding shift and stuff. I remind you, but hopefully you know the basics. So keep holding shift all the time here in order to extrude these edges, and we're gonna worry about how this is gonna fit with the rest of the pieces as we go forward. Alright, change the color and change the material from the material editor. So right now we're gonna change how this this piece that is attached to the eyepiece is gonna be, and right now I'm trying to change how the two pieces that look similar, one in the front and one in the back, and we're gonna try to change them at the same time. Hopefully this is gonna look good. We'll see. Definitely this is not gonna be we're not gonna leave it as it is. We have to figure out how this is gonna possibly allow the eyepiece to fit against it, so we will see how we will do that. Alright, so for now I just made it smaller for now, because later probably I'm gonna figure out how exactly this is gonna work, because I think there is something that I'm not really getting, and something that I'm not really doing right for now, even though everything seems perfect, because the proportions with that eyepiece is not really something that I find to be working exactly as I want it to be. Anyways, right now we're gonna work on the hinge with its three pieces, and we're gonna start off with this cylinder here in the center. This one is gonna represent side pieces that are gonna be attached to the body into the hinge. So I deleted all the polygons except these here, as you can see, and we're gonna extrude these polygons. Keep holding shift all the time in order to do this. And yeah, right now we will try how we'll figure out how this is gonna work, because the reference image is not really helping us that much here. It is giving us a hand, but not really as accurate as I want it to be. So at least it is giving us a general direction where we should go. Anyways, we will try to extrude these edges right now, and we will figure out how this is gonna be matching with the body of the binoculars. Alright, so I just extruded some of these polygons because this way we can attach this piece to the body of the binoculars, as I said before, and yeah, we'll figure out how this is gonna work. Even though this piece here, that is part of the hinge, is not going to be attached directly to the binoculars for reasons because it's going to be harder for UV unwrapping and stuff later. It's going to take longer. It's going to be better if we do this, but it's for practical reasons. It's not really something I want to do. So we're gonna separate them later. Even though right now they're connected, later we're gonna separate them for the reasons I talked about. So we're gonna try to guess here where or how this shape is gonna be, or the geometry here that is connecting these two pieces is gonna look like. All right, so our model here is is going in the right direction, and we are making some progress. So we're gonna probably extrude these polygons here that I selected. If you are one of my Patreons, you're gonna find the reference images and all the texturing files there, and yeah, especially the reference images that are gonna guide you in order to be able to actually get a solid grip or better understanding of how these binoculars look. And this is really important in order to actually save some time and headaches down the road. If you don't understand your models, then it's gonna be a little bit difficult to have a good time modeling. So right now we're gonna bridge the this opening here, and we're going to collapse it, as you can see. And basically, and fundamentally speaking, or generally speaking, we are going to duplicate this, and we're basically done with this piece. And we're gonna try to adapt its geometry to the back end of the body of the binoculars. And this is gonna a little bit interesting because the geometry back there is not completely similar to what we have in the front, so we have to I think we're gonna have to attach them, and like we did before, but this time it's gonna be a little bit different. Also, this is really important here. It seems like I'm using the free-form deformation modifier, and this is why actually our eyepiece was I was finding it difficult to match it with the body, because basically this area has to be brought a little bit to the center, and it was far away, so it was technically speaking, it was smaller than it's supposed to be. That's why the eyepiece was not, I found it a little bit hard to position it right there. So, yeah. All right, so we're gonna bring back the this eyepiece to its original size. All right, so uh, also right now we are gonna try to connect some of these polygons with the body. Of course, we're gonna make sure that we're gonna convert this to editable poly, because if we don't do this, it's gonna affect the other piece, which we want it to be. We want it to be as it is right now. We don't want to change that. Alright, we're gonna delete all the polygons where things are gonna be attached. And we're gonna select the edges where we're gonna create a bridge between these two pieces. Alright, so right now we're gonna detach this piece. So right now they are separate pieces, and I just duplicated this piece or these set of pieces, and we're gonna bring them to the other side. Alright, also here we'll see we're gonna have to flip these two pieces because we need them to be facing each other. Alright, so right now I just created a cylinder that is going to be in front, and it has to be there because there is a piece. I could have, we'll see how we're going to actually create this piece and the other piece that is behind it, or the cylinder inside the hatch. Alright, so technically speaking, right now we will actually add some floating geometry, and we're gonna detach this cylinder here and these polygons here, and we are gonna use the cylinder here in order to create some extra details that we are gonna need. All right, so what we just right now we just chamfered these edges, and we're gonna do this multiple times because this is necessary in order to get the number of edges we are looking for. Also, it is important to keep things smooth and cylindrical, because if we chamfer edges multiple times, chamfer the edges by multiple edges just one time, we're gonna get an edgy cylinder with many edges, but that are not really doing anything. So right now I'm applying the bevel tool on these polygons here by polygon, of course, and the bevel here is by polygon because we need these polygons to be separated. This is important. This is really important in order to get this effect we have here. So I just duplicated this. I'm aligning it to the other part right there. It was real quick, even though it seems like it has to be complicated, but it is not. Alright, so right now I'm going to create a layer for these binoculars. One for the high poly is going to be called binoculars underscore HP, and the other we're going to duplicate here or create a copy for. Then we're going to call binoculars underscore LP for representing the low poly version. Alright, so right now we're going to work on the support edges. And the support edges are important because we want our model here to look smooth and clean and everything when it comes to the high poly. So the high poly is really important, and we're going to use it in order to bake create some bake in Substance Painter and bake the details from the high poly on top of the low poly version, which is really important in game ready models. Alright, so applying these support edges are kind of self-explanatory, so probably I'm not gonna explain lots of things here since it is gonna be probably pretty obvious. And if you are familiar with this process, then it's gonna be really easy. So for some of these pieces, we're gonna have to fix some of these areas because we detached some parts from here previously. All right, keep working on these pieces here, and of course, what we're doing here is not that complicated. It's extremely simple, and the theory behind it also is very basic. So there isn't lots of things to talk about here. By the way, where there is open ends, you don't have to apply support edges because they're not necessary, like what we see here in this situation. Alright, so basically we are done with the first part of this tutorial. If you want to check part 2, it is on Patreon. You can check my Patreon page if you want to see all tutorials and support me as a creator, because it is really important to have my back here because things are not easy. And yeah, if you want to keep me or if you want me to keep creating on YouTube. Alright, thank you very much.